The fast fashion industry is responsible for 10% of global carbon emissions. That's equal to international flights and maritime shipping combined. We as consumers need to find alternatives to shopping brand new because our purchases only contribute to this harm. The matter is that some of our favorite, most affordable brands are the ones that are contributing the most to this issue. Personally, in an attempt to save money, I know that I've shopped big name brand stores to find more for less cost until I found out the environmental impact that these companies had. Today, I'll be discussing the effects of this industry on the environment as a whole, as well as on less developed countries, and I'll make sure to share some sustainable habits to consider when looking for clothing. But first, let's look at how fast fashion is changing the earth as we know it. The fast fashion industry is one of the biggest contributors to carbon emissions and pollution worldwide. Like I said before, 10% of global carbon emissions come from the fast fashion industry. This is also equivalent to the European Union's entire emissions annually. This industry also contributes uses large amounts of fresh water for production. A lot of textile dyeing is used and then polluted. It's used and pollutes the fresh water. But energy usage and pollution are not the only factors in the fast fashion dilemma. With overproduction of fast fashion items, high amounts of waste are being dumped in underdeveloped countries. Of the 80 to 100 billion garments that are produced globally every single year, about 87% end up in dumps. That's about 87 billion pieces of garments in landfills every single year. Another issue with this is that most of this is exported to underdeveloped countries. Even though the US is the second largest textile producer in the entire world, most of our textiles are sent to countries such as Kenya, Ghana, and Pakistan, where they are put in landfills and dumps just to sit. Despite pressures from a lot of these country leaders, the US has continued to send our exports there. With so much damage being done all around the world, what can we do differently? To avoid contributing to the fast fashion industry's destruction, we as consumers have to develop more sustainable habits when it comes to finding clothing. The most important thing we have to consider is to avoid shopping brand new as much as possible. The best place to start is often our own closets. I know that I am not the only one who, in looking for something to wear, has found something in the back of my closet that has not been worn ever before. According to Forbes, people wear just 20% of their wardrobe 80% of the time. Another option is to consider renting clothing. There are a lot of companies now that exist, such as Rent the Runway and Mud Jeans, that allow consumers and customers to rent and lease items to wear for a certain period of time and then return them when they don't want them anymore. This leads to less new buying and also longer usage of items. Another sustainable option is thrift shopping, though a lot of fast fashion items end up in thrift shops, so it's important to focus on quality over quantity when you're thrift shopping. If all of these options fail and you really, really need that winter coat that you don't have, you can also consider a sustainable store to shop at. Typically, this means that items are going to be very long lasting, so they're going to last through many seasons and over many years. And these products are also going to be made of biodegradable products or textiles. So they're not going to be non-synthetic. They're going to be non-synthetic. They're not going to be plastic. Expense ends up being a little bit higher when purchasing items made this way, but in the long term, you end up saving because you don't have to buy as many products over time. Overall, less is best. We often have what we already need. Today, I discussed the environmental impacts of the fast fashion industry on the world as a whole, and also on less developed countries with dumping of textiles, and I shared some sustainable habits to consider when looking for clothing. We as consumers have to consider more sustainable habits when we're looking for clothing because our contributions impact the environment. So, start by considering what you already have in your closet and the habits that you have developed. So, I just have one question for you. What's in your closet?